We're in a battle for the very soul of our nation. God is raising up an army. It may be a small army, but it'll be an army that has the soul of a warrior. What's the alternative? In the Bible, I have done a study on what I call the high cost of cowardice. The high cost of cowardice. You know, if you know your Old Testament, you realize that when God brought his people out of Egyptian bondage to take them into the promised land, they had to go through a wilderness. And it's on the map to this day. And really, it was only a journey of about 10 days, 2 weeks at the most. And yet the Bible tells us that they wandered in that wilderness for 40 years. 40 years. How could it take 40 years to get through a 10-day hike? Well, the answer is found in the book of Exodus, chapter 13. When I saw this a few years ago, it really made an impression on me I've never forgotten. The Bible says in verses 17 and 18, when Pharaoh finally let the people go, God did not lead them along the main road that runs through Philistine territory, even though that was the shortest route to the promised land. For God said, if the people are faced with a battle, they might change their minds and want to return to Egypt. So God led them in a roundabout way through the wilderness toward the Red Sea. And the Israelites left Egypt like an army ready for battle. That's the high cost of cowardice. It cost them of wandering in the wilderness. It cost them the lives of that entire generation that died in the wilderness according to unbelief, the Bible says. That's the high cost of cowardice. Beloved, today, we better get the soul of a warrior, or we will pay the high cost of cowardice. But the church today, in many ways, is like Ephraim, the tribe of Ephraim, described by the psalmist in Psalm 78:9. It says, the warriors of Ephraim, though they were armed with bows, turned their backs and fled on the day of battle. What that means is the tribe of Ephraim, which was one of the greatest tribes, one of the largest tribes, one of the most ferocious tribes in warfare, a tribe that produced a man like Joshua. It says they went up armed with bows. I mean, they were battle ready, but they turned their backs and fled in the day of battle. And of course, Israel suffered a tremendous defeat. There again, we see the high cost of cowardice. You know, the church today looks great in many ways. We've got our mega churches. We have our many Christian TV channels. We've got large buildings, facilities, outreaches. There are more Bible resources available to us than any generation previous. And yet, many are turning their backs and fleeing in the day of battle. Some of God's people aren't even in the battle. Some are just sitting on the sidelines. Let's not let that be said of us. Let's get that warrior spirit from the Lord and be part of the army that he's raising up, because we can still save this country if we'll follow God and give our hearts to him. If we'll get the soul of a warrior and be ready to fight and even die for the freedoms and the values that made America great. Have a blessed day.